Hey, this episode is brought to you by June Laloy. They've just launched their Spring 2026 collection, and it's perfect if you or your clients are ready for a seasonal refresh. The line leans into vintage-inspired design with rich, saturated colors and a wide range of furniture fabrics, including some really beautiful velvets, okay? Plus, of course, you have the rugs, the furniture, the lighting, and decor. If you want pieces that bring your projects to life, check out JuneLaloy.com. That's JoonLoloi.com. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. I am delighted to have Christa O'Leary on the show with me today, and I can't wait for you to get to know her. Christa is the founder and the CEO of Home in Harmony Designs, a distinguished design firm that has been recognized as one of the top 50 design firms by Designers Today magazine. She's been hailed as one to watch by Modern Luxury magazine, and her work has been featured in publications like New England Home. She also has a collaboration with our beloved Kravet Inc. Most recently, her spectacular dining room in the 2025 Hamptons Cottage and Garden Show House was an overwhelming Instagram favorite. She's also shared her expertise as a keynote speaker at High Point Market and has appeared on CBS, NBC, and the Hallmark Channel. But Christa's real story is this beautiful intersection of her career in psychology and therapy with her work as an interior designer. Christa holds dual degrees in psychology and human development and has a foundation in marriage and family therapy. We've had a few designers over the years who also come from a background in psychology on the podcast, and we will link those episodes in the show notes for you because it really does help to hear from their trained background how to infuse this in your work in a meaningful way. You know, there's something powerful about understanding the human experience, about knowing how people think and move through their spaces. Christa brings the depth of understanding to every project she touches through what she calls design-inspired living. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about creating spaces that foster emotional and physical wellness, spaces that support the people who inhabit them. And I think what you're going to hear in the conversation today is someone who really sees people. Simple as that. Someone who understands that design is ultimately about enhancing life, about setting up environments that nurture and support the people living there beyond the aesthetics, right? And this comes from her years in psychology and therapy. It's woven into everything she does. I'm excited for you to hear Christa's journey. Now, before we get to it, I want to tell you this podcast today is brought to you by June Laloy. You know Laloy Rugs. They've been in the trade business for more than 20 years, delivering to you personalized service and innovative design. From the same family, June Laloy builds on its sister's brand's expertise and expands into total home furnishings with a curated selection that puts quality and value first. You can browse furniture, rugs, lighting, wall art, and more. As a designer, you get a trade membership and you enjoy benefits, including exclusive pricing, dedicated service. You know, all of this is designed to make doing business with them a breeze. Visit JoonLoloi.com/trade today. That's JoonLoloi/trade. All right, let's meet Christa. Hey, Christa, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Oh, Luann, thank you so much for having me today.
So, Christa, as I was getting to know you, looking at your website and looking at some of the videos that you have done and so forth, I love this intersection of your, career in psychology and therapy and all the things. We've had a few designers over the years, and we'll link those in the show notes, that also came from a background in psychology, and it really does help inform your work as a designer. Even everybody that doesn't have a background, they're like, I'm a therapist and a designer. But I can imagine how much stronger if you actually have some knowledge in this area, right?
Yeah, and I think it's not just about, I think when designers say that they are both a designer and a psychotherapist, they're talking about just the interactions that they personally have with the clients. But for me, it starts right at the beginning, talking with the clients and really assessing what their needs are as individuals, as families, where are their strong points, where are their challenges, and how can we set up an environment to really help them live, it sounds so cliche, but how to help them live their best life, how to create the most harmonious home. And for me, it was, 25 years ago when I stepped away from having people sit across from me on the couch in psychology sessions. And all of a sudden, I started going into people's homes. I felt like, wow, I'm actually seeing amazing changes for these people in their lives, and they're happier, and I'm making much better changes than when somebody sat across from me on that couch. They walked out the door to the status quo of their life, the status quo of their homes, and then they came back in to sit on the couch, and it was the same conversation over and over and over again. And again, maybe it was just because I wasn't great at being a psychologist. But I feel like
I guess that's a possibility. Funny. Okay. Well, it's funny because I'm picturing it, right? Like, listen, like I said, this is not my first conversation live in person at events and so forth, or on the podcast, where it's literally, I would say, in the last 5 years, it's become, obviously, my brain just went like it always does. Well, that was the pandemic. Like when are we going to stop marking things by the pandemic, right? I feel like, okay. But that really did. Like, there's no question that brought out the I want to say the dynamics of how dysfunctional a house could be, let alone the people in the house, right?
Right.
But, and how the function and the aesthetic and the setup of the house does impact us mentally, physically, well-being. And I don't remember whose conversation it was, but I remember the first time somebody saying, when your home is well designed, when you come into it, your body reacts on a cellular level. And I remember going, what? Like, wait, what? Just because it's pretty? Like, what? Right? But of course, that conversation has evolved so much in the last 5 years, and we really understand. And so when you talk about this, I think anybody that's listening to the show for a long while, we get it. We know that the home environment, the work environment, the physicality of it impacts us mentally, emotionally, all the things. But when you were just describing that, people coming into my office and sitting across from me and having problems, real life problems, and then going to their house and having problems in their house and coming back. You know what I heard what I was picturing in my head is my one daughter has got a 5 and a 7-year-old. And over the last 3 months, she has said, I have got to do something with the homework station and the backpacks and the shoes and the coats and the things from the after school thing. It's like, we're in the kitchen and it's all chaos and, we want to put it away to clear for dinner, but it's like, where does it go in the next morning? And it was so funny because, Christa, we were standing there together a couple of months ago, and her dining room and her kitchen are one room. So it's like a big open, just a huge table, and there's the island with the kitchen. So there's no separate place, right? And I looked at her and I said, I think we just need to let go of this and thinking of it as a pretty dining room. It's got a function. Now, it could still be pretty. To your point, you would probably make it pretty. You can have a pretty table, a pretty light, blah, blah, blah. But like, this isn't going, there's no place to put this away. We just have to figure out how to store it. So, because that's the thing. Like, she could be going to a therapist every week going, it's chaos after school, it's chaos at dinner, right? But that's like a practical implication of it. Am I on the right track?
Absolutely. You're so on the right track. And I, first of all, let's just rewind a little bit from some of the things that you said. I have such an appreciation that since 2020, people are understanding and are becoming consciously aware that their home environments are impacting them. Because one of the things that I always say is that our homes are either our recharging stations or they deplete us, right? You either walk into your home and you think, I'm home, and that lifts your energy. It gives you, there's just positivity. Or you walk into your home and there's the clutter in the corner, or like your daughter, there's chaos all over the dining room table, and that drains your energy. And the problem with that is it's sort of like what I call the pebble in the pond effect, right? The pebble in the pond is there, but it starts to ripple out and impact all other areas of your life. So you walk in and you see that clutter and the chaos, and then you start to get frustrated. And so what does it touch in your life? Does it impact your relationships? Does it impact your clear thinking? It literally has a pebble upon impact, and it hits every area of your life.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're talking about your daughter specifically and the homework and the chaos that ensues, because one of the examples, and I know we'll get into the questions around the designer's toolbox, but one of the examples I actually give in terms of one of the tools in the toolbox is called relational layout. And it's both from a micro level and a macro level. And on a macro level, that's taking the whole house into consideration and ensuring that it's set up to create harmony versus discord and unease. And the example that I give is, I had a client who had kids. This is way back Connecticut days when I lived in Connecticut. My kids were in elementary school. They're now in their 20s. And my kids used to run through the door. They'd plop all of their backpacks. Everybody would sit at the island, and there'd be a lot of chaos and lots of chit-chatting, right? Because they're elementary school. They want their snack. They want to tell me about what happened at recess and in the cafeteria, and, who did something mean to somebody, and, and then they're talking amongst themselves. So there's just a lot of, right?
Exactly.
So fun. Well, this client was having a very different experience when her same age kids got off the bus. They would come in, they'd sit at their island, and the chaos would ensue, but she would be trying to calm them down. Oh. And all of a sudden, the dad, who worked from home at a time when it wasn't, entrepreneurs maybe worked from home, but there wasn't a lot of at home at that point, would stick his head out inevitably every single day and tell everybody to quiet down because he was on the phone. And so he's upset with mom for not keeping the kids quiet. The kids are upset with mom for telling them to be quiet. The kids are upset with dad because they're in this not a great situation. Mom is upset with everybody, right? So it doesn't feel good. And then that ripples out. It impacts the relationships. It doesn't feel good. So
it leads to silent dinner conversations.
Exactly.
Everybody's mad at everybody.
But that all goes back to the tool in the designer's toolkit, where it's the relational layout on a macro level of the house. Mm-hmm. So what we did was we reorganized where that dad's office was going to be, so that it didn't make sense to have it next to the common area that was the family room and the kitchen. Right. So I love the fact that, your daughter's realizing that this doesn't feel good to her.
Right.
And are there ways that environment could be set up differently to help her and help everybody in the house feel a little bit more harmonious?
Yeah, because she's like, I want it out of the way when it's done, but I don't want it so far out of the way that at 8:15 on the way to the bus, I'm like, where the heck's your backpack? Where's the folder? Because they're not quite old enough yet to own that, right? Like when they're 13 and 10, it's like, look, like me, I'd be like, you don't have your backpack? I don't care. You're getting on the bus. You don't have your folder? You figure out what you're going to say to your teacher because you're 13 years old. Get your stuff together, right?
Right.
But at 5 and 7, it's kind of like you're still managing that, right? And to your point, when the kids come home, like I always call it the bewitching hour. It's like, that time from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving. Bye.
Funny.
Because my brain is observing two things. My brain is like, just what you said. They've come from a whole day of structure. They've come from a whole day of rules. Just let it out. But I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be here for that phase. I'll come back when everybody's got their crap organized again.
Yes.
But that's good. I mean, I like that because so what you're saying is, as you work with your clients now and you bring in this psychological background, and of course, things like this, we can all employ, right? Not just ask what's pretty here, but what needs to function here. And what's like, I guess what I'm hearing is not even so much what needs to function here. Like I'm thinking if somebody were interviewing Christy, it isn't so much what do you need to happen here? It's more like what bothers you in this space, right? What's the thing that you're just like twice a week going, OMG. And she would have said, well, this is my kitchen, my dining room, but it's also central headquarters for 2 little people, right?
Right. Exactly. And it's one of those things with, obviously, as designers, we want to ensure that the spaces that we're creating and designing are aesthetically beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel as though it's even more important to ensure that we're setting up environments that really nurture and support the people that live there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I walk through, I always ask for a tour. Like even if I'm only doing a master bedroom for the couple or the family or the person, I want a tour of their whole space so that I can hear them talking about their space. I understand what brings them joy, what depletes them, what they want to see different, what are the goals in their overall life. Like I want to understand the person from a holistic standpoint. And I want to ensure that when I create and design that space for them, everywhere they look, it brings a smile to their face.
Because I can understand the importance of that. I can get that because if somebody's giving you a whole house tour, they're saying in this room, I love this. And maybe they're like, I love this little cozy corner and this is where I love to read. And I hear what you're saying. It's like, that's what they appreciate. Should I be duplicating that in the bedroom? But maybe they're saying, but I love to do it where the sun is. And you get to the bedroom and the bedroom doesn't have that exposure. So, okay, leave it off or whatever it is, but you're fact gathering. And so, Christa, I know that you do a lot of speaking at designer events, High Point, and all the different things. What are you finding? Like you've got 25 plus years experience as a designer. I don't know how many years experience as a psychologist, but when you are out and you're talking and you're doing your speeches and your presentations and you are speaking and learning with designers about what they're going through, what do you think they're missing the mark? Like, I think everybody, I'm going to tell you right now, because everybody's like, oh, I ask all my clients what they would like. I ask all my clients like to really go through their lifestyle with me. I know I haven't met a designer yet that doesn't believe they do this. I can't know. I'm not saying to you that I know there's designers that think they do it and don't do a good job. That's not my realm to evaluate. But you are probably privy to the situations where somebody thinks they're getting underneath the hood, but are they really, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things like when I'm giving my talk, if I'm giving a keynote at High Point and I'm going through the different aspects of the designer's toolbox, what helps me jar a designer to awareness around what they don't know is saying, listen, when you go home from High Point Market, I want you to be consciously aware of walking through that door and noticing what your thoughts are about whether or not it feels good to be home or whether there's a little bit of dread there, or what is that? And then as you walk through your space, again, notice what your unconscious mind is saying, because typically what happens is we're so habitual that we just go fast forward through all the process, and we're not thinking about it, we're not reflecting, we're not in touch actually with our, we all think we're in touch with our feelings, but we're really not. So if you don't have that ability to notice your own thoughts through that process, which I guarantee probably 90% of the people don't, you're not going to have an awareness around what your clients are really thinking.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Because your clients are going to say like, oh, I love the color blue because I saw it in somebody's, on the internet or on HGTV or wherever. And that's not, blue might not support them, because blue, let's say for somebody from a color psychology standpoint, the color blue wouldn't be great for a couch potato because it's going to calm them and it's going to make them want to sit more on the couch.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So even though they like it and they're drawn to it, it might not be good for them.
Right. Whereas somebody who's like always up, bang, 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 blue might be helpful.
Right.
Depending on the room, though, right? There's some rooms where we're fine being a lunatic, right? And other rooms where we're supposed to calm down.
Well, I think it's about where you are in the home. It's about who you are as a person. In certain situations, we might be more dynamic, in other situations not. When is that appropriate? When is it not? When does it support you? And when does it not?
What happens when it's obviously so many of our clients are part of a couple? So, like one is a couch potato and blue isn't a good thing for their family room, and the other one is a lunatic and blue is a good thing because they can sit still. Is that just way, like, Luann, like it's just not that basic? Like blue isn't going to have that much of an impact. Stop.
No, I do. I think that blue has such a huge impact. I mean, because again, if you dive deep into color psychology, it doesn't just impact our psychological being, but it actually impacts our physiological being, right? So the color red, for example, raises your heart rate, right? So if you have somebody that has heart issues, like you as a designer, you need to know that information, because you don't want to put red or orange or any of those types of colors in their space.
Interesting.
Red, I love talking about the color red because it's so fascinating to me. A lot of the restaurants picked up on the fact that red actually increases your hunger. So if I have an overweight middle-aged woman who came to me for design and she's like, I really want a red dining room, or I really want a red kitchen, I'm going to say, I don't think it's a good idea, because there's a reason why, if you think of some of those top, bigger, larger scale restaurant chains, right? So, I don't know, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Chili's, right? Well, there used to be Friendly's. They all incorporate red in their color scheme inside the restaurant because it encourages hunger.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Red
so
is my
that's
color.
The depth though. Like that's the depth and the layers that a typical designer, even though they might say that they really get to know their client, like unless you have these layers of knowledge, you're only going to be at the surface.
Yeah. So the thing about it is you're doing these conversations about this. You wrote a book about it. You have a course that you do, the Designer Toolbox course that you do about it. Like, why, I guess you're actively doing it with your own clients. What's the passion that connects you that you want other designers to understand it? Is it just a psychology background? It's, it's in your DNA to care for the whole planet. And so this is how to do it. Like, it's because I think I know with business, put it this way. I know with business, people will look at me and say, I get that. And I'll be like, I can tell you that you don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? So what I hear you doing is you're like, I do this. You're like, yeah, but you don't really. Like, so what's the deal about it with you? Like, why
am I so passionate about it? Yeah. So one of the questionnaires that you had sent over, if we had time to talk about like random things, was if you had a magic wand or if you could be any superhero, what would it be and what would you do? Right. Yes. And I said to my husband, because I was reading through all the questions, we were getting a good giggle. And I'm like, I think I'd be like the fairy godmother with a wand and I would make everybody healthy. Like, I think that, so I do have a passion around that, right? Yes. I want to help. I want to heal. I want people, that really is what drives me and drives me in my business. And coming from a Western educated background in psychology, we were taught do no harm. And I truly believe that when, decorators, we'll call them decorators, go into homes and they don't know what they're doing, they actually can do harm. So I feel, and I also, we have a joke in our town that the moms drop their kiddos off at preschool and all of a sudden they have like a few hours of free time every day during the week. Yes. And they decide to go into one of two professions. They either become a realtor or a designer, right? But they don't know what they're doing. And I talked to an editor, actually at Traditional Home Magazine. She and I were laughing about this because she agrees with me. And she's like, they're just glorified shoppers. Like they're good at shopping and they get ideas off the internet and then they go and they shop. And so for me, I'm like, all right, if they're going to go into, you can't stop them from going into homes. So how can we educate them and take it to the next level so they actually have a framework around going into somebody's home without doing harm?
Yeah. Well, and I think what it is I think what I'm hearing, what you're saying, Christa, is there is a distinction between objectively creating an aesthetically beautiful space and a space that is actually designed for wellness and enhancing that person's well-being at a physical and emotional, and cellular level, right?
Absolutely.
And with that distinction in mind, just because you have created that well-designed space, like, it's kind of a disservice to the industry too, in a sense, right? It's like it takes it away from the level of professionalism that is the thing that commands the fees. That is the thing that says why this designer in your area is more suited to designing your space than your best friend who has good taste, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that and this is a thing where we get clients who we have to fix the environment. And I've had everything from
an environment that looks pretty, but
environment
needs to
looks pretty
fixed.
or
right,
cool or like fun and funky.
Yes.
But the people that live there all of a sudden are saying like this, for some reason or another, it's not working.
Doesn't feel right.
I had a mom who came to me in tears, and she had a designer who had come in and did the whole house, including her son's rooms. And they were having lots of trouble with their son who had ADD and ADHD, and he was very aggressive with the neighborhood kids. He'd gotten in a few fights, and he was always the one getting in trouble. So she brought me in, and she's like, "Can you just like assess in your perspective? Is there something going on? Like, what do you think?" So she brought me up to this child's room, and I kid you not, it was bright red. And there was a huge, I forget what they're called, fat sticker thingy.
You're not thinking I know
Yeah.
anything about pop culture, do you?
Yeah. It was a big sticker of his favorite football player, because he was a football player, and
Okay.
throwing a pass. And so the amount of like
Activity.
energy,
Yeah, energy.
activity,
Yeah.
energy, frenetic energy in that space, it was like, there is no chance this kid is going to calm down. So we redid the space. We
Made it
chose
blue, made it
colors that would be
color.
appropriate, textures that would be appropriate, things that could just decompress. And the mom called me in tears and was like, this is amazing,
Wow.
because he has so settled down. We haven't had any issues, no trips to the principal, no fights in the
Wow.
neighborhood. So it works.
Well, and you know what I'm hearing is whole day is pressure and stress and activity and fighting his the own chemicals in his brain, right? Because the world wants him to go one road and he's down a different road. And then he comes home and it's like, like plugging it in as opposed to unplugging it, right?
Right.
And by the way, that room, the way it was, could have won a reward. It could have been the most creative, wonderful, like yay room ever. But
It
it's
was
not
cool. It
taking that
looked
in.
really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a designer, I go in and I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Well, nicely done. Yeah. So the thing is, what it occurs to me is that I'm relating this almost because look, we have a lot of self-taught designers that are magnificent. There's, I don't knock the school of hard knocks. I don't. But I think what you're saying is there's another layer that even if you're self-taught, go self-taught yourself this part. It's like, don't just learn the color wheel, learn what the color wheel means and learn how the color wheel affects you, as opposed to just which colors go together and which colors don't. I think that's what you're kind of saying. And it reminds me, we just had a conversation over the weekend about, the well-intentioned dad that coaches baseball. It's like, it's so funny because my husband happens to be an exceptional baseball coach. I mean, he coached all the way to college level.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he's had a team from T-ball to college that didn't make it to the championship round. I mean, he's ridiculous. And I don't care if it was girls, boys, 5-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds. It's like, I literally was saying during this conversation, we were with other people. And I said, have you ever had a team that didn't go to the finals? And he just looked at me and he's like, I don't know. I said, I don't think you have. I really don't think you have, right?
That's amazing.
It is amazing, right? And the thing about it is I've always understood very clearly from the time I started being side by side with him when he would coach our kids when they were younger and watching him. And one gentleman in particular was earnest and a good dad. And he was the coach of this team for the past 2 years. And now we move to town. Our daughter's going to be on the team. And now my husband volunteers to coach. And I'm going to be the mom with the books and, email everybody about what time the practices are and stuff. And I remember watching, because this guy is a good guy, but it was his team. And we get to the first practices and I'm like, even I know he was telling them the wrong mechanics for how to hit the ball, right? And I'm like, how is Vinny going to handle this, And so little by little, and that's, his superpower. He's super kind and but this gentleman literally within 3 weeks was like, okay, we're all going to learn from you, Vin. I'm going to relearn how to do it. We're going to teach the kids how to do it, right? And the thing is what it reminds me of is just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you can teach a thing. And in this case, just because you can make a room beautiful doesn't mean it's a beautiful room that supports wellness. And I think that's the distinction you're making, right?
Absolutely. And I'd even go farther than that and say, I think I'm one of those, I believe in perpetually learning.
Yeah.
I can only get better the more I learn. And so, again, another one of your questions was about books. And I have an insatiable appetite to learn about business. And I've been doing this for 25 years. I have so many different aspects of my business, but I want to keep learning and understanding. As I said to you, I listen to your podcast, especially when I'm like, okay, I need to be reinvigorated. So so I think that that's important too. But again, I think that you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
Right. And so if you have, there are a lot of people out there, and I'm going to ask a question, and, be truthful with yourself. If you're a designer and you're going into people's homes, do you know how much space there needs to be between, let's say, a wall and a couch so that a person feels comfortable walking through that and they don't feel constricted? What is that number? Like, those are the things that really matter when you're designing a room.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're not...
And it's 36 inches, just so we're clear.
It's 36 inches, okay. And the thing about it is if you're not educated in principles like this, in knowledge like this, you can do it by feel, and it may or may not be right. And that's the point. It could end up looking sort of like right, but if it's 26 or 28 inches, what you're saying is physically comfortable for the whole family functioning there, is walking through isn't the same as feeling okay walking through.
Exactly.
Interesting. Exactly.
Because we're all innately wired as humans.
Yeah.
We're innately wired, and it goes back to like prehistoric times, and we can't disengage from that. That's part of our subconscious.
Yeah.
So it's important to take those and use it to the benefit, because all of a sudden it turns your design from being like aesthetically pleasing design to all of a sudden you have raving design clients who are going to talk about how good they make them feel in their space. And then when they have people come over, the people are noticing like, wait a second, why does this feel so
I like
good?
being here.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's how, honestly, like when I was transitioning and starting to really learn and understand design and taking all the classes that I was taking, people would come into my home and they'd be like, okay, I don't get this. You have 4 children, but your home feels so calm.
Wow.
And it feels so good to be here. Can you come over and do whatever you did here?
Your juju
Can you
at my
do
house?
your magic there? But you feel it. It's like,
yeah. My daughter needs you.
Oh, poor thing.
I know. It's just like you walk in and those kids are just bouncing on the walls.
I get it.
They're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. Okay. So, and I guess, the bottom line on this isn't an indictment if you're not a degreed interior designer, because you could be ignoring these principles whether you have a 4-year or 2-year degree or not. So it's not just an uneducated designer. It's just, did you take the time? Are you taking the time to pay attention to this part of the education, whether it's through formal or through your course or through whatever it is, because that is the next level of leveling your work up, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I also think it's so important about doing no harm. Like, I think it's so important. Like that designer who created that red bedroom for that little boy he was trying to do something incredible and make something that was really awesome and unique for that child and all of his interests, right? Yeah. So did that designer understand that was an interest and she played all in on that? Absolutely. But she was doing harm and she didn't know it.
Yeah, that's the truth. Didn't know it, had no idea, because didn't do the deeper exploration and then connect it to how she could or he could impact what they learned in that deeper exploration, right? Yeah, crazy. Okay, so now when you do your design toolbox thing, you have like the clutter cleaning challenge, which is like kind of like, let's get to know Christa and see what she's got here, right? And they can do that. And we'll put links in the show notes to all the things that you want us to do. But when they ultimately get to this designer toolbox situation, that's live. That's not just a download. That's you working, whether it's one-to-one or you and one-to-group, a group coaching situation. Yeah. And you're now walking designers through the different areas of aspect that through your dual education are the ways that they can differentiate themselves and also do no harm, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's also teaching them how to communicate with clients, because I've had clients who, this was probably 20 years ago, and I had this client. He was a CEO of a national radiology company. So I walk in, he greets me, and he says, "Just so we're clear, I don't want you to do any of that feng shui stuff. I just want you to design the house." He had seen my house. He had seen my work in a designer show house. So he was like,
I absolutely don't want any unintended benefits from feng shui.
So I remember being like, well, I'm not going to like close my eyes to that lens that I assess an environment through. I'm going to, like, that's a tool that I use. But then I realized, I'm like, oh, he isn't esoteric whatsoever. At the time I'd written a book for Hay House, and they're West Coast. They're very esoteric. And I'm like, oh, I'm not dealing with that population right now. I'm dealing with somebody who's very concrete and scientific. And so then I realized, okay, I need to talk to him in his language. Which then allowed the whole process of interacting with clients. It made everything so much easier. And it was so much easier to get a yes from clients when talking to them through the language that they understood.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That is so important, right? I mean, that's sales 101, right? On a very basic level, we've talked about it 1,000 times. If you're dealing with an analytical type, you better be talking about the brackets. And if you're dealing with, like a driver, you better be talking to me about price before I even know what the heck I'm buying. Like, just what price are you? It's so funny because when he said, just to be clear, I'm like, whoa, that's like my line. I'm like, just to be clear.
Just to be clear. I wasn't even actually in the door yet. I was still on the doorstep. He said, just to be clear. And I was like, oh gosh, what have I gotten myself into?
Oh my God, that's so something I would do to somebody, just to be clear.
Just to be clear. And I was young. I was probably like 26.
That's so funny. But I think that's funny because it's good for you that you were, and probably your background really helped there, especially since you were young, to not just freeze, right? Like not just stop at, like, because what you described is you learned that he doesn't really care if it's feng shui or not. He just wants you to deal in concrete things. Don't talking to me about woo woo. I have to put this here and have this water thing here because you know what I'm saying? Because even like I'm a very practical person, and I'm like, I'll take all the hidden benefits you can give me. Stack
Exactly.
them all in there. However you get them, it's fine. If they're working on my subconscious, let's go.
Exactly.
That's so funny. That's so good. Well, I have a question for you. So first of all, I can put in the show notes how somebody can get information, but is there anything, before I change the subject, is there anything about the designer toolbox that you want to say or they should know that they won't get from whatever link I put in the show notes for you?
I would say that I think it's an important way for designers to be able to assess spaces that is very different than what designers are taught in design school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it really it benefits it takes your business to a whole nother depth. And I feel as though it really allows you to shine as an expert. It's allowed me to shine as an expert that is so, I don't know if so far advanced, but like it just distinguishes you from other people because you have such a depth and breadth that most designers or most glorified shoppers don't have.
Well, and again, I mean, just to bring it back to the conversation about Vin, he coached that one girls team that year. And this gentleman who saw firsthand the transformation of these 12, 13-year-old girls that couldn't play softball and could by the end, now all the other coaches in the league in the town knew, and it was like, hey, Vin, can you stop by our practice and teach us a little? So you just described that same thing. The knowledge starts to speak for itself. The expertise starts to speak for itself. The work speaks for itself because it isn't just beautiful. It's also this added layer of benefit. So I think that it makes perfect sense to me. Now, before I let you go, I can't not have a 25-year smart lady interior designer on my podcast and not ask you, and this is a surprise, so you might need a hot minute to think about it.
No.
Yeah, no, right? But it's just, outside of this particular realm, but like flat out business, operations, finances, anything that you would just say, yeah, sure, wish I knew this 25 years ago, or this was a thing that in the beginning was tough for me, but when I mastered it, it made, like, one of my things is, it's like, I'm big for I'll do the hard things because I want everything else to be easy, right? Mm-hmm. So is there something that comes to your mind, Christa, that you would, outside of this particular lane, say to a designer that's 1, 3, 5 years in business and you're just like, hey, I just got to say, la, la, la. Anything come to mind?
I think it's something actually that you talk about all the time. I think it's so important to have process in place. And I actually say that from a standpoint where we've had certain processes in place for 20 years. And then in the last 5 years, we've really seen a shift since, I hate to say, the pandemic, but we've really seen a shift in the design industry as a whole and the different things that consumers have the ability to have access to. So we are in the process now of reevaluating all of those. So again, thank goodness I come from a growth mindset that says, okay, how can I learn? How can I better us? It's a continual process for me. And that's, I think, why I've been able to grow from not only doing design, but also having a storefront and having an online store and writing an international bestseller and being on stages and speaking and being on TV and speaking and doing all of those things is because I'm continually trying to evolve and grow the business because I like learning and understanding business in general. I think it's cool. And it's like, okay, how can we continue to better ourselves?
I love it. So what I'm hearing in that is, aside from all the things that you do to pay attention and up-level your skill set as a designer, you don't ignore that same building and up-leveling process as a business owner.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, it's awesome. Two different parts of the brain, right?
Yep.
And if you're going to succeed in this business, unfortunately, you have to have the ability really to do a bit of both. I mean, obviously you can outsource, and I recommend outsourcing when it's beyond you. Like we outsource, like I don't love numbers. That's not my thing. So we outsource a lot of that. That said, though, I'm the CEO of my business, so I have to have some understanding of what's going on, and I have to have my finger on it a little bit. So I just think I think having that growth mindset.
Yeah.
And being willing to learn, whether it's in the business end of things, whether it's in the design end of things, having a growth mindset is invaluable.
And for clarity, a growth mindset is personal growth mindset, not necessarily, I want my team to be 20 people. It's a growth mindset of getting better and doing a different version of yourself, a better version of yourself year to year, right?
Absolutely. And not saying, okay, I'm concretely this, and it has to be my way or the highway. It's saying, okay, there's a lot out there that I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, I always go back to that saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And there's so much. I mean, I'm sure so much I don't know.
That's right. It's
and
a
I'm
big
going to
wide
continue to
world.
learn, which makes it exciting. And that's why then I tune into you and say, okay, what else do I need to be?
The whole reason why I'm like going to hit my 10-year anniversary in a couple of months as we're talking to right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And more than 1,400 episodes between the two podcasts. And, my husband looks at me, he's like, I don't know how you still show up and do it. I'm like, because I learn something every flipping conversation. Like I literally learn at least one tiny little thing. Like one day. Sometimes I learn a whole lot of things. Sometimes I learn a tiny thing. But
so what did you learn today?
Well, I really did learn first of all, I learned that with clarity. See, I've heard it before. And that's why I tell people, listen to the darn show over and over again, the same episodes, because you hear what you're ready to hear when you're ready to hear it. What I heard with clarity today is that you can really create an aesthetically, exceptionally, like nobody would not know you're an Elle Decor AD100 designer, and it could not be the ideal room for that client. It could be a show place. It could be a show house room. But if you don't really get deep into what that client needs on a psychological, emotional level, a beautiful room is not enough. It's too much money. Like what I'm telling you what I learned. It's too much. Like I spent $250,000 on that room and it's not making me feel great. And I didn't know that because everything you showed me was beautiful. I feel like my room is in your hands. And I'm going to answer your questions. But if you don't ask the question and you don't get the answer, I now don't know what I don't know. I don't know that you needed to know another thing. So I'm needing you as a professional to know these darn things to get it out of me. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. and we've talked around it. We've talked around the value of it. But today I heard the responsibility part of it. And you know where it also reminds me of? Like I have sold window treatments for 40 years. So on a very one item in a room level, it's no different than if I walk in and I say, hey, what kind of, window treatments do you want? And you're like, I'd like to have shears. And I'm like, great, shears will look great here. Here's a lucite rod. Here's a beautiful cravat fabric. Let's do it. And then like later I find out like you work nights and you need to sleep during the day. And I never asked you, so do you need the room dark? It's like that's on me as the window treatment person to not just go to not take it to the next. Now, a whole lot deeper for you guys. Like I can get there in 3 questions, but what I'm hearing is your advocacy for the responsibility of, and here's the other thing I learned. I should be doing all this in the outro, but I'm going to keep doing it. Here's the other thing I learned. Just having a list of questions, if you're not sure why you're asking them and what you're after, it's useless, right? That's deep work on a designer's part. What does this like that example with that young boy? It's like maybe there was some fun, flip conversation over coffee one day. Like, oh my goodness, he's ADHD, drives me to drink. He's my trouble kid, and I love him like life because his energy is so amazing. But you see, somebody like you is going to go, wait. What is he like when he comes home? What happens during the day? Whereas somebody else, uneducated, not paying attention, not having heard this episode, might be like, yeah, I have ADHD too. And just keep it rolling, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
like, it's a different level of cognitive understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for teaching that to me, Christa.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate this. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, Louanne, it was a pleasure being here. And I'm honored to be one of your 1,400. Wow. It's amazing.
Okay, before I share my observations on this conversation, I have some good news for you. If you loved getting to know Christa, you can meet her in real life. Christa is one of the speakers at the East Massachusetts chapter of the WCAA, the event that is happening at the Boston Design Center in the Kravitz showroom this March 11th, 2026. Yes, how fun would it be to meet all of the WCAA members from the area, many who have been on this podcast or Window Treatments for Profit, as well as your fellow designer colleagues. And I mean, the benefit of seeing the beautiful Kravitz showroom, there's a win-win-win in my mind. To learn more about this event and to RSVP, please go to wcaa.org/membership drive and look for the Eastern Massachusetts event. By the way, this whole week, March 9th, 2026, we, the WCAA, I'm the president of the national organization, right? We are having live events like this all over the country. I'm going to be in Atlanta on March 10th, and then I'm going to be at the Pennsylvania chapter, New Jersey, Pennsylvania chapter on March 11th. You heard that right. We have events in Chicago, Indianapolis, Raleigh, Charlotte. We even have a virtual event as well. So all of the information is there at the wcaa.org/membership drive landing page. Okay, we've got designer, Erica Ward is going to be with me in Atlanta. Dana Fowler is going to be there with me. Michelle Williams is going to be with me there. All kinds of great events. So please go check it out. I think you and your business will thank you. Okay, now, getting back to Christa. What strikes me most about the story is how her background in psychology really does shape the way she approaches design. We say all the time, we expect you to create beautiful spaces. And I know that a lot of you talk about understanding how people live and work in them. This is a gift that you have. If you're taking it seriously, it is definitely a gift. And I love that Christa brought this additional, deeper level of understanding to it, right? This is an incredible thing to have in a toolbox when you are communicating with clients and assessing spaces. This is something that goes beyond what your design education has taught you. And when she talked about having to speak to that CEO in his language and not in designer feng shui language, right? That reminded me of Sharon Sherman's episode here on this podcast where she explained the 4 personality types: fire, air, earth, and water. And how important it is to not only understand your own personality type, but then to try and assess the personality type of your client. Now, what I had said in that episode is that if you've had a recent interaction with a client that went negatively, listen to the show and think about the different personalities and try to identify what they are. Probably you might have handled it from your personality. And that's why problems escalate, because you're handling it from your perspective as opposed to the way that they need it handled so it can be heard. This is Sales 101, right? And Christa's psychology background gives her that advantage from the very beginning with the client. Jackpot, right? I also love that Christa said about really learning your clients, and what she means is really learning them, understanding their health issues, any challenges they're facing, what makes them feel good, what drains them. Because when you know these things, you can then design their space to make them feel how they want to feel. This is powerful. That goes beyond picking the right sofa or the right paint color, right? It's picking and designing an environment that supports them, that makes their life better in tangible ways. And that pebble in the pond effect that she talked about, how the spaces that you create, ripple out and affect everything in your clients' lives. When she talked about coming home from High Point Market and being consciously aware of walking through your door and noticing what your thoughts are about whether it feels good to be home to you or whether there's a little bit of dread there. That hit me, right? Our homes should welcome us and they should feel good. And as designers, you have the power to create that for all of the rest of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, if you want to learn more about Christa's approach, she has a designer's toolbox that helps you communicate with clients and assess spaces in ways that are different from what your design education, whether that's a formal school or school of hard knocks, might have taught you. Head over to her website at homeinharmony.com homeandharmonydesigns.com to check it out. We will also have the link in the show notes. Christa, thank you for being here. I loved our conversation. I'm glad we got to spend this time together. I'm so glad that I got you hooked up with the WCAA there in Eastern Massachusetts, and I'm sure that it's going to be an outstanding day. And thank you for showing up and listening. I appreciate you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.